Yeah, I'll just start recording. It's been and I guess the camera is right here, but it's been a long time since I did my last podcast. The last one I did was with my friend Polos. I don't know if you ever met her. And that was
I don't remember.
yeah, that was quite an interesting one because I talked a lot about stuff that I don't usually talk about on my stream, like sexuality and just sexuality in general. It was very, very fun.
I do remember that at a certain point you did discuss the subject in depth. That I do remember, but it's been so long
It
ago.
was a while ago. Yeah, she has not been in VR and she hasn't been around. Unfortunately, things happen. But anyway, about you. This is my friend Chocolate Prophet. Twitch.tv/chocolate_prophet. They do a poetry. How would you describe poetry / spoken word event?
Stories and poetry.
Yeah.
Poetry and stories. Short stories, of course, because it has to last about 5 minutes long, about 500 words, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
It's an open mic where anyone is welcome every Thursday evening around 6 p.m. Eastern Time Zone to jump in the fray and just tell a story, a poem. And at some point, people were being tired of just bringing poetry and they wanted to have a challenge. So I always invite the audience to pick a theme at the end just before I finish streaming.
Oh,
To make things more interesting.
for the next event.
Like my favorite one was when it was about languages.
Mm-hmm.
So I invited people to write poetry in their own mother tongue.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And
That
since
is very
VRchat has
interesting.
so many people from around the world, I had
Mhm.
people in English and French and Japanese and German and Swedish and Bulgarian.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really very fun. And it just happened that a few people who had never came spoke so many different languages, and there was also Spanish as well. So I met many interesting people that night. And another one that was really good was collaborations. So people who would participate, they could group up with others and try brainstorm and write a poem together.
Oh.
So I did
that's a
one
good
with
idea.
Bunny Hearted. I
Oh.
did one with 1-2 Step. I did
Mhm.
one with Mezion, Flaming Valley, and Vivian. And all of them, it's like just one day, okay, we're doing this together. This other day, I'm doing it with someone else. And 15 minutes before the event, hey, Bunny Hearted wanted to do something with me, so we did something super hilarious, and it was funny.
She's amazing. And so you've been
And
doing
thanks to all these other,
Well, I mean, you've been doing this for I mean, you were doing poetry and stuff for again, I'm assuming a large part of your life, but how long have you been doing this event now? It's been at least a few months, right? 3 or 4 months or longer? I don't know. It's been a while.
Next Thursday will be my 36th edition.
Wow. So it's been like, what, 9 months or something? 9 times 4, is that right? 36? About that? Been 9 months? Holy crap. Wow, it's a long time.
I look at the weeks, but I don't look at how much that makes in a month. If you divide by 4,
That's what I was thinking.
36 divided by 4. Yeah, 9 months. There you go. Yeah, it's been 9 months.
That's so long. It's amazing how time kind of flies by.
So that means that it'll be soon my turn to have to try and imagine what I'm going to do as a 1-year stream anniversary.
Yeah.
That yours just passed by not long ago.
I didn't really do. Well, I ended up streaming for about 25 hours, maybe more last weekend. But I didn't. Not in a row though.
How did you feel after that? Okay.
Very tight. I did 15 hours. Well, I've done one 24-hour stream, and after that, I was like, never again until the next time. But I was just like so exhausted, and that was kind of impromptu too. So I kind of did it at the end of, like, I started at 8 p.m. or something, and then I went to like the next day. So I'd already been kind of tired when I started. If I do one again, I'll definitely start it in like the morning, right when I wake up, so it's not so bad. But this time
I think
around,
that a lot of streamers might make that mistake of starting in the evening, and they're like, they've already have like almost 10, 15, 16 hours of their life
exactly.
awake.
Yeah.
And now they're going to try 24 hours.
It's people could one of my friends, her name is Savvy. She's crazy. Like when she first started out, she was telling me she did a 24-hour stream, and the next day she's like, well, I guess I'll do another 24-hour stream. Like, you are nuts. Like, she's also one of those anomalies that just has like so much energy somehow.
Me, I've never done a long stream so far. My
What's
streams
the
usually
longest
last
stream
only
you've done?
4 hours and a half tops.
Yeah. Is there a
Because,
reason?
my stream
or-
goes on only as long as there are people still willing to share their poems.
Yeah. It's very much
So if
just.
I have 5 people show up, it'll last maybe an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
If we're 10, 20 people, it might last 2 to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And once I had like 40 people show up, it lasts 4 hours and a half. And I had to actually cut it myself because it was getting late.
Yeah.
Because it's a Thursday and I work on Fridays at like 8 a.m. So after 4 hours and a half, it's like almost 11 p.m.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
And my brain is definitely tired after moderating for so long.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Imagine you're hosting the event for 4 or 5 hours and you have to deal with the list of people participating. You're taking care of your chat, you're taking care of your own poetry that you have to read, and then you have to watch out for the other people coming in because it's Friends Plus.
Yeah.
It takes a lot out of you.
I can imagine and kind of relate.
But what's interesting is, yes, there's the random people who come and discover the event. Those are really nice because they never expected this. They're like just world hopping, and like they see people around a campfire and they're like reading stuff and they're like, "Is this a cult?" No, we're reading poetry. Oh, cool! Can I read too? And then we put them in the list and they like see what the other things people are doing. And once we got a storyteller, it was really good. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to come next week and the week other and the other one." So they kept coming back for like 2 months. Eventually they disappeared, but for those 2 months it was really fun. And it was just someone who randomly hopped in the world.
Is it? Do you do your events in Public Worlds or Friends Plus or Invite Plus? I forgot.
Friends Plus.
Friends Plus. Okay.
Friends Plus, you
Probably for
can sometimes have random people that can be bothersome.
Sure. Yeah.
It has happened once that I blocked someone,
Yeah.
maybe twice.
Which is pretty good, I guess, all things considered. I mean, not too bad.
As you said,
36
9
events.
months.
Yeah,
In
9
9
months.
months,
Yeah, that's not too
twice people being bothersome willingly. I'm quite really surprised by VRchat. Usually, sometimes you'd have a few crashers. Sometimes you'd have a few people just trying to talk
Yeah.
over everyone and just say random stuff. Sometimes I do have to speak up a bit. But because I
Yeah.
have people who are regulars, others also speak up and they make the person understand this is a gathering. This is a place where there's a few small set of rules where everyone can enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
So it's been growing thanks in part to Oh Girls.
Well, what did I do?
You inspired me originally, you inspired me a bit for streaming. Also, Addie inspired me
Yeah.
because of her wholesomeness. Then there's Bunny Hearted.
Yeah.
I actually talked to her originally of this idea that I had. And she was also very busy, a bit like you, when streaming. But at some point, we met up at the Orange Cat in Addie's World. And we just started talking about my idea. And then she said, "Oh, it would be nice that it's on Thursdays because it's the day I have the most freedom." And then I had remembered that you had made a performance for Artifacts at an event that was hosted by Mad Mox.
Yeah.
So I actually, just by trying to remember their name, I managed to find them on Discord. And I asked them if they would have time to come and help me out with an event because I wanted to try to do something. And I asked them if there was anything about poetry going on in VRchat, and they said nothing, zilch, nada.
Yeah, nothing.
No one was doing an event about
Yeah.
poetry. So in the end, it's oh no, it was Guardian, the first person I met, because they were on your streams, and this person gave me a lot of tips. There was Bunny Hearted, there was Addie, there was Twy in game, Aki VR, and 2 or 3 other friends of mine, including Mezion. And during my alpha version, my first ever stream, they gave me tons of tips to help me out.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how it started, with the help of the whole community, just giving a helping hand.
That's really nice to hear. Yeah, there are some makes me sad whenever people kind of have a bad experience in VRchat, but for the most part people are so willing to help and are so loving and kind. I'm really happy. Especially Mad Mox and One Two Step and Bunny Hearted. They're all so sweet. So I'm really glad it's taken off, and it starts at 6 p.m. if I'm 5 p.m. Eastern.
6 p.m. Eastern time. 6 p.m.
Every
Eastern.
Thursday.
And it ends between 8:30 and about 10 p.m. on average.
Okay, and anyone can just come and sign up it's like at the first come first serve kind of, right, for the list for people who want to just read a
what happens is
poem,
that
or...
I make a presentation, like I say, welcome to the 36th edition of Spoken Heart. Bienvenue à tous et à toutes à cette 36e édition de Spoken Heart. So that's speaking in French, because I consider everyone welcome to read in the language that they're the most at ease. I will not necessarily understand them, but just the fact that they're taking the time to speak something out, it can still be very beautiful, and they can still give an idea of what they shared in the end. Because Spoken Heart has become more than just sharing poetry. Thanks to Bunny Hearted's community and Honey Bun also, it's become a place where people are very much accepting. And it's even happened that some of the people who attend have done coming outs of either being trans, or gay, or lesbian. And I was surprised first. I was like, wow, that's like, first of all, they're putting themselves in front of my stream that back then I didn't record, but still they were in front of a public.
Yeah.
So it was serious business for them, and it wasn't easy. So sometimes they would be emotional near the end.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I spontaneously did group hug, and then we did like a huge group hug, and we'd all hug the person and send tons and tons and tons and tons of heart emojis.
That's so sweet.
And the people really love that. So since that day, every time someone seems to be emotionally affected by what they're sharing, automatically everyone
Group
jumps
hug.
in and does group hug.
That is so good. That is so sweet. I
definitely credit Honey Bun for inspiring that also.
No.
She's a huge puddle of love, that person.
She really is. She is so sweet. I love her. I love her so much.
Yeah, she started off coming to the event by doing motivational speeches, kind of like saying that you are loved, that you are someone who is precious, who's important to this world, that deserves living. She was like on and on, throwing love and joy to everyone.
Aww. That makes me. I know. She is. That completely describes her. She's just a bundle of love, and she. I don't want to talk too much about her personal life. I don't want to make her uncomfortable, but she told me, because she only recently, over the last year, developed the ability, not developed, but had the ability to speak. I don't know if she told you this, but she was mute for the first 20 years of her life, and only over the last couple years has she
voice condition, I think.
Yeah,
and
voice
also
condition.
Practicing efficiently her voice, I think.
Yeah.
I think she was it with Bunny Hearted that she practiced her voice?
I'm not
with
sure. Maybe.
I don't remember.
I'm sure.
I think she practiced with someone while she was taking a break, and it really helped her.
Yeah.
And there's also a Miss Dance who practiced with Bunny Hearted. They did, and it really made a huge difference.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because people who are trans women, to practice their voice, there's a good way and there's a bad way. And I was explaining that some people often do the bad way without noticing it.
Yeah.
So when Miss Dance explained to me the technique, an example, when also Angelo explained that they were also trans as well, Miss Dance talked to Angelo about the good way of doing it. And I think they probably helped Angelo a lot, because Angelo was practicing a little bit the wrong way, but not quite. So, and Ms. Dance is super passionate and very analytical. She even wrote a novel that she just published just now.
Wow, that's incredible.
Because of her organizational skills really got her into practicing herself, and now she's sharing it to the community. So all these people that I meet, just sometimes at random, sometimes through other streamers communities that come to this event that I hold eventually, like they just span out. They don't just share poetry or stories. They share personal experiences. They share tips and tricks. They share motivational speeches. It's going to be really something amazing. Even I sometimes am emotional just watching it go by.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. You've developed like such a lovely little community there. It's so loving.
But
and
I don't
nice
think that I haven't grown it necessarily to its biggest potential, because I often use Artifacts as a Discord, as the Discord where people can share their poetry and their stories. But I'm not necessarily very active there, even though, because I've been promoting Artifacts for so long, they've actually invited me to be official staff of Artifacts. So I can post my stuff in the official announcements of all their big names, and sometimes TF Johnny, you spoke of earlier, sometimes announces his events there. And seriously, 1-2 Step, Camp Leroy, Guardian. There's also Huggle, someone called Huggle. That always watches around.
No, I think his name's Huggable or something like that. Huggable?
Huggable, yes.
Yeah.
And there's so many passionate people in Artifacts.
Yeah,
and
they've
really helped me even throughout. One thing also that inspired me was their Friday night campfires that are still ongoing.
Yeah, I forget what time do you know what time Leroy starts those? I think that's
7 p.m. Eastern time on
7
Fridays.
p.m. Eastern.
It's like you just show up. If you don't want to play, you don't play. You just lay around. You lay on a tree with a comfy little pillow, and you just listen to like 40 talented musicians. You just go round after round after round until like 11 p.m. So like 7 to 11, I think it's 5 hours. And it's just, you need to decompress, you need to relax, you need to just lay down. That is definitely my go-to place. I'd say once every week, once every 3 weeks, I end up going there. I share a bit of poetry, but I really go there for the environment, the ambience, the positivity, the music. It's just, you have country, you have metal, you have Stairway to Heaven, you have a whole bunch of different genres. There's someone sometimes who raps, and I also love going to other events that people organize. That way I find inspiration to bring it back to the event that I hold, to bring in the positivity that the world has to offer.
God,
And there is an event that I was very sad though. Maybe a month or two ago at my event.
What happened at your event?
I did something that you should never do with files on your computer.
Delete them?
I did not make backup.
You did not
make
make backup.
backups.
Yeah. But what
And
were
once
they?
I had written a poem.
Poems.
They were on my desktop. So at some point I wrote a poem, and then I erased the file, but I accidentally erased the poetry file, the VRchat folder file, the VRchat streaming, and all my icons and images and everything I had worked on.
Yeah, all
in
gone.
3 seconds.
Oh my
All gone.
gosh. I've been
And
there
panicked,
before.
So I tried to get it back,
Yeah.
and I did something that literally crashed my Windows. So I had to reinstall everything.
Oh my gosh.
So I lost
I'm
6
so sorry to
months
hear that.
of poetry writing to
you,
to Socks, to Addie, to Bunny Hearted, to Honey Bun, to Husker Wolf, to Choco Tam, to Shifty. I had like 50 different streamers that I watched and still watch. And my way of interacting with people is to write poetry.
Yeah.
So imagine that you suddenly lose all that interaction.
Gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
In 2 seconds.
That's horrible. Yeah, I know that.
And it was just before. Yeah, you actually.
Oh no, go ahead. I that's happened to me before, like months, not 6 months. That's a lot, but I lost like a month or two of videos and pictures that I took, and now I have 2 backups of everything that I find important enough to do so. And do you have backups?
3.
You have 3 backups? All right, see that's even better. Yeah.
But yeah, I lost it. I think 1 or 2 days before the event. So I just didn't have the mind to write poetry just then. So I just wrote how Spoken Heart came to be. And I read that to the people, and I think I wrote for like 6 hours straight. I think I wrote like 2,000 words. And I just read that out at the beginning of the event. I warned the people, this is not a normal edition. I have something to share with you tonight. Please bear with me. And then I started reading. Halfway through, I was crying.
Oh,
Until the end.
that's so
And
sweet.
Camp Leroy's mother, that often looks at the Camp's streams, and she even comes on my stream as well.
Really? That's so
And she's probably
adorable.
she's my greatest patron. She keeps on sending like a few gift subs here, 5 gift subs
Really?
there.
That
And
is
she keeps
so
on cheering me on, yeah.
sweet. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah.
adorable. That's
Leroy's
great.
mother is my biggest fan, kind of.
That is so sweet. Has she ever been in VR before? Has she ever like?
Not that I know of.
That's so
not that I know
interesting.
of.
I'll have to talk to him about that. That's very cute and sweet. No, that's amazing though. I love that. That VR things in VR, events in VR can touch people, you know, who might not necessarily use it. So I was gonna ask
My
you.
mom
yeah,
hasn't
Sorry, go
really-
ahead. Oh no, go ahead. Yeah, talk.
My
about, yeah.
mom even came. My mom even came to see a few editions, but she's definitely not as present as actually Leroy's mother, who's
Yeah.
always there, guaranteed every
Right.
Thursday. It's crazy. My father at some point was curious, but when he learned that he needed to create an account, he just gave up immediately. Him, it's like YouTube, Facebook,
Yeah.
Netflix, and that's pretty much all he knows how to use a computer.
Yeah.
A bit more, maybe. He knows emails.
Yeah.
And yet he actually writes more poetry than I do. He even
Wow,
published 3
really?
poetry books.
Wow.
Yeah, and he never talked to me about it ever.
What? You just discovered this or something like recently or?
I discovered it, I think in 2006, and I started writing poetry in 2001. And it's not that he told me about it. It's that he started writing about happiness on his computer to try to get through his own hardships and his own demons.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing we do have in common, is that when we have something that's really hard in life, something that we just don't know how to get through, we have to write.
Yeah.
Because my father, often, he forgets that he can write and can sometimes fall into alcoholism. So that, I feel, is not a positive outlet, or
No.
drugs.
Yeah.
So when I was 15 years old, like 22 years ago now, I actually fell into writing instead of drugs or alcohol. I just started writing, watching anime, and Japanese culture in general at large, and role-playing. Those are the 3 things that made me be alive and happy in a ways.
Yeah. And it is. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm really happy that you found those things because, like we were saying before, you know. Well, we're talking about people who suffer from depression, which I think is a lot of us. And it's not easy to find, or at least be aware of what you're passionate about. You might be passionate about something, but you might not pursue it as much as you'd like. And I think it's been
Definitely.
wonderful that you've been writing, and you know, you told me like before VR you would put on a Japanese cultural event in Montreal, or not in Montreal, but in Quebec.
Yeah, in Quebec City, I co-founded the festival Nadeshikon, Nadeshicon. I was involved from, I'd say, 2008, before it was a festival, all the way up to 2017, when we finally went to a convention center, which cost like 3-4 times more expensive than a university. So it was a huge
heck.
risk,
Yeah.
but it was a success in the end.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Just to give you an idea, the first guest we had, we paid her carpooling and a student room at university. That's all we gave her in exchange for like 2-3 hours of entertainment, teaching people how to dance, and almost be our main participative guest of the event. Because I had met her at Japanese events, because before that, I just watched anime and I barely didn't have any friends. I had maybe 2-3 friends tops. One for Dungeons and Dragons, and another one that I had used to watch playing video games with, and maybe one other who read more than anything. And I would only mostly read or watch a bit of anime eventually. And when I discovered the Japanese culture and everything, I started slowly volunteering. Then I started actively looking for events. And one day I just thought, why not make one myself since there's none here? Because I was yearning for a place to get together, meet people of similar interests. And in the end, it actually happened. We made a festival. The first one was 250 people. It was successful thanks mostly because of a fashion show with Lolita style, cyber and everything. And we also had a tea ceremony. Then it grew to 400, 500, 700 people. And eventually we actually had our first guest of honor from Japan that we paid their plane ticket and everything. Moon Kenna. She actually popularized Gothic Lolita, the original person who mostly
Whoa, really? That's so
really
cool.
emphasized it in the community. And she's not that known from everyone, but in this culture, in Gothic Lolita, she's like the reference.
Yeah.
And the person who made her come, who convinced us to make her come, actually was a huge fan of hers. And just to give you an idea, once they finally met in person in Quebec City, let's just say that today they still are in Quebec and have a child together now.
Wow, really? Oh. Wow, that's... Oh.
So
I love hearing
Nadishkan
stuff
brought
like
people together and brought love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even before Spoken Heart began, I was already trying to help people to find their true potential in ways. Their love, their aspirations in trying to do something that they appreciate and find a way to make their heart speak. Because just before talking with you today, before we got together to just chill after almost a year, someone on Discord was saying, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, and how are you? Oh, I'm just bored doing nothing. I'm like, well, you should find something that interests you. Because when you find something that's interesting, you want to share it with others. And when you start sharing with others, you start meeting these people and making friends. And then when you really like something, you're going to get involved and maybe even participate in making events. And then you're going to meet a huge world of people, and you will not be bored. Because you won't have any time for yourself at some point. That has happened to me many, many times for festivals. Because I started helping out in Quebec, in Montreal, in Toronto, in Ottawa, in Trois-Rivières, and at some point I think I was helping almost 7 or 8 festivals at the same time. Almost every weekend I had a meeting for whatever event. From 2000, I'd say 11 to 2017, I still saw my friends and family, but oh damn.
Yeah, you told me that you're so busy.
I would sometimes be in a
just
suit.
so
I would
busy.
sometimes be meeting random people in huge social gatherings, like a whole bunch of representatives of countries at the Japanese consulate to celebrate the emperor's anniversary. And I was like, how did I end up here? What am I doing here? There's like so many people who have like millions in dollars. And I'm like, hey, you want to come to this festival? And do you want to sponsor it? And here's my card. And I'm like, damn. When I was like 15, I would have never dared doing that. I was just too shy.
Yeah.
I would never have dared. But I feel that when you find your passion, your something in your heart,
Yeah.
that is when you truly start living your full potential of who you are.
Oh. That's beautiful and absolutely
Kind
true.
of like
I
you
think.
found. That's kind of like how you found your community. Or I think that it's the community that found you almost. It's like you're a magnet of love and hyperness and of joy. And of course, the original word I thought about when I first met you was, do you remember that word that I said that I thought about you? The first meeting? I repeated it a few times in the last few months.
Oh my gosh.
What was the term?
I don't know. I'm gonna know it
Look
as
above my head. Look above my head.
a social butterfly. Yeah, a social butterfly. That's what she said. Yeah.
Exactly.
Aw. You're so sweet. I think that's so true, though. It wasn't until I found, like, VR is my passion. Also, well, I think people are my passion.
Mm.
I love meeting people. You mentioned this in a
Mm.
poem, which I think made me cry. I forget what the exact words you used were, but it's something like, when you're around, or it's my duty to make sure everyone feels like a cutie or something like that.
Mm. It's
And
possible. It's very possible.
I guess I was talking about this with my friend, and that's so important to me, to make people feel happy with themselves, and to build them up, and to be like, you're amazing and cute and adorable and sweet, and I love you and I love what you do. Because I feel like people don't hear that enough, and I just think it's really really important that people hear that. Um,
I agree.
yeah.
And one poem I wrote recently, maybe almost a month now, that's called Events.
Mhm.
To what I recall, the poem is mostly about the experiences you have in life. Some experiences, you live them fully because they're beautiful, you love them. And even those loving experiences, you don't necessarily live fully because you have other things going on at the same time, and you don't necessarily take the time to just appreciate the love that you're getting. So if you don't take all of your time, this very moment, to appreciate what you have, imagine how much time you put into things that you like less that go on in your life.
Mhm.
Some things you would just want to forget and put away in a shelf and forget them forevermore, and let the dust pile up. The thing is, that shelf is always there. That experience that you had will never go away. So, as Addie told me when she read the poem, she thought it was a bit ominous in a ways. Yes, it can be ominous because things can come back to you, and not at the best of times.
Mhm.
And it could really hold you back sometimes. But in the end, those events are not ultimately bad events. They're experiences that you went through. And you're still alive. You're still doing what you can in life. But you're putting so much negativity on them. You're like pushing them so much down. At some
Mm.
point, those events, they will want to come back up. They will want to rise and see the light again because it's part of you. It's who
Yeah.
you are.
Mhm.
So eventually, those events will come back whether you want them or not. And at first, it will hurt. But if you decide to let them see the light again, they'll just be positive. You'll be able to get rid of the venom that you thought that they were, and becomes a part of you. It'll make you better,
Yeah.
and it'll become a drive to make you go forward. So the poem I wrote about events, some people can see it as ominous, some people can see it as dark, but others understood that it was something that was positive in the end. It's a way of seeing life that every moment is precious, every moment is important.
Mhm. Yeah. That's so true, and
Every
so beautiful.
cutie girls telling others that they're cutie are definitely important.
Well, that's very true too. But yeah, that's
Mm.
that's something good to remember, is that the events don't really define you as a person. There's something that you went through, and make you stronger, or I don't know. But I definitely have fallen into the trap of trying to repress memories. And it wasn't until, I think,
Mm.
maybe over the last few years, that I've kind of not let those events, I mean, they're a big part of me, but not let them ultimately be negative, like a negative definition of who I am. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
they're things that I went through, and I don't really have, like, I used to regret a lot of things that happened as if I had a choice in the matter. I'd be
Mm.
down on myself for things that happened. So I definitely can see how those things can be a negative part of your life. But like what you said, when you let them sort of rise up and like not ascribe too much meaning to them, they can be like a beautiful part of your life that happened, or like something that maybe you can relate with other people that might have gone through something similar, and helps you connect with other people too.
Because if you want, I can share you what actually inspired me to start writing.
Sure.
If it's okay with you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
So I was 15 or 16 years old. On this very day, without knowing so, my grandfather had died. At the same time, a girl that I was interested in for some time thought I wasn't fast enough to her taste, so she decided to not talk to me for a whole week and end up with someone else. At the same time, my father had tried to take away his life in front of me.
Wow.
So I had lived through so many experiences at the same time that my mind was like, what is this? It was like a void. It was like, imagine a mirror breaking. And then I just went on a bus with my sister on my way to see my mom, because my parents have been divorced since I've been 5.5. I was 5.5. So on the way to the bus, I had paper and colored pens. And I just decided out of the blue to write one page on random themes. Friendship, love, truth and fantasy, life, death, the human spirit, and time. I just wrote. And my sister, she's 2.5 years younger than me, so she was maybe 12. And I was showing these writings that I just threw out of nowhere. And she was like, what's going on? I just inspired, and I'm writing. And she was reading it, and she's like, what's going on? And then I show it to my mom, and she's like super impressed. And my mom's a super big inspiration of my sensibility, my being in touch with my emotions, while my father is more like, hide your emotions, don't cry, you're a man. And he was in the army too.
Yeah.
So I learned many years later that she actually plastified those sheets and she gave them back like 10 years later.
That's so sweet.
But writing felt so good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like picking up the mirror that's broken and actually making somehow sense of the world around you. Because the subjects I talked about are pretty important to everyone. Friendship. You know something that's a lot more important than friendship? I think for me, it's super important, because they're the people who help us out, who we have fun, who bring joy, who sometimes bring sorrow. But they're the people that often we hang out with and tell a lot of our secrets, and they're really important in our life, especially if we're not too close to our family. Then there's love that I have never really pinpointed, because I haven't been in a relationship that deep in my whole life. So I actually said that love was the opposite of everything that was real, but it's a bit more complicated than that. You'd have to talk with me for 5 hours to understand that. Then, of course, truth and fantasy. People say truths, people say lies, people imagine things, people get lost in fantasies. They can get so passionate about so many things, and truth and fantasy can both intermingle completely. The best way to see that, if you like anime, is to watch Millennium Actress. That movie, at first you're like, okay, this is reality, this is fiction. And eventually you're like, I don't know what is what. But it's a beautiful story. And I think it's a good story to bring you into the difference between reality and fantasy, and how much they can be intermingled together, interlocked. Then there's life and death, eternal questions of humanity. Who has not ever thought about their own mortality and the world around them? The human spirit is kind of part of that. And time? Who doesn't think about time every single moment of their life? Even absent-mindedly.
Yeah.
Do we ever have enough time for everything we want to do? Oh, girls. That's a question I ask you.
No, definitely not. I remember there was a time in my life where I wasn't super passionate. I was kind of bored, where I thought I had too much time. But once you find what you're passionate about, it feels like you never have enough time for anything. It's so true. It's one of the saddest parts of life
you're-
is that we don't have infinite amount of time. But that's also what makes life kind of beautiful and delicate and sweet, is that it's temporary and it's like a gift that we've been given. Yeah.
We're kind of like a candle that burns away so passionately.
Yeah.
And at the end, our light does extinguish.
Yeah.
But for the time that our light has been lit, it has brought light to our lives and to those around us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a few tears right now in my eyes.
No.
Yeah, life.
Yeah.
I even sometimes hear people saying that they're not happy in life.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know how, I still haven't found one single moment where I didn't love my life, even though if I was sad.
Really?
That's why when I hear people who say that they're not happy living, I try to share them a bit of my light, but I also understand that I cannot help them find the light.
Yeah. Right. That is something that
But I
each
do hope
person has to find themselves, unfortunately.
I do hope that sometimes people find a bit of light in the events I hold.
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, I really need to go to more, but the times that I've gone and people who I've met, like my friend Gray Fox, they find so much comfort.
Yeah, they've shared a few poems
in these events, and a lot of people, they don't have another outlet to share what's really deep inside their hearts. So I think it's amazing that you hold these events. I think a lot of people feel that way. That I've met in VR, that this is a really great place where they can share, and also a completely safe place to do that. Like, I think about I've never really gone to a spoken word event, but there's something, I guess, a little bit more comforting about maybe doing it in your own home in VR with a bunch of cute anime girls or something. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I would be a lot more nervous, I think, going to like a coffee shop or something and reading in front of a bunch of strangers. Whereas
I did it a few
here it's,
times.
yeah. How did it go? Did you?
It is intimidating.
Yeah.
Because some of them are really good and very, very, a million times more organized than me.
Okay,
Even if I consider myself pretty organized, some people, it's like
the next level.
they studied the material. They're like university levels poetry and
Right.
jam and slam.
Yeah.
Slam is kind of like spoken song poetic. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
a mixture between singing and reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it's super rhythmic and very beautiful. It's like almost they're like doing a live play in front of you, a one woman show. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I have found a rhythm or a voice. I have never dared to try to practice that yet. But one day maybe I'll try to write a song.
Okay. I think you
Maybe.
can. I think you
'Cause
can.
I know you have started recently.
I just started. I feel like if I can do it, you can do. One of my greatest inspirations, her name is Spork of Love. I don't know if you've ever come across her. She.
Could you send me a link afterwards?
Sure, yeah. She sings and she writes songs, and she is, in terms of songwriting, is one of my biggest inspirations. And she told me once that the only rule that she has for songwriting is that there are no rules. Just throw everything out the window and just do it. Which I found very, very sweet and very applicable. And I think it's kind of the same with poetry or any kind of art, really. Yeah, you could be trained in it or, have experience doing it, but it doesn't make it any more beautiful than someone who's doing it for the first time, as long as it's sincere.
Well, yes, because they're actually, as you say, it's sincere.
Yeah.
The moment something is sincere, people will feel it in their heart and their bones.
Yeah, definitely.
So other than poetry and promoting Japanese culture, I also am very passionate about role-playing, as I said earlier.
Right, yeah.
I think I've started everything at the same time, and I even got to apply it in a work environment roleplay. For 2
Oh,
years about,
really?
I got to work in a place where they help people who have slight mental disabilities or have built up so much dust on their problems that they just can't barely see the light anywhere, but not to a suicidal level. It's just they have difficulty working in society. And I got to work there to organize small events, to help them with their social media, give small English classes, and once every 2 weeks, I would have a group of 6 people who would role play with me, and I would pre-make characters which would put them in environments that would be useful for them to enact in reality. So I would help them be in a fantasy environment to develop social skills and interacting with others and themselves. And that was really fun and fulfilling.
That sounds really nice. Do you still do that? Any at all?
No, because you remember the conservative Prime Minister Harper, Stephen Harper?
Yeah.
He cut on those kind of organizations.
Oh, I actually did not know that. I did not know that as an American.
Yeah, he cut into mental
wow,
health
that's
organizations, a whole
awful.
bunch of smaller organizations that help the society, the little things that just cost a few tens or hundreds of thousand
Oh my
dollars.
gosh, that's
And
horrible.
he more invested in petrol, billions and billions of dollars.
Ugh,
So a lot of things that
gross.
are useful for society, to help them, to pick them up and just show them that they're human beings, were losing their few $1,000s that they had to survive
yeah, that's
because it was
awful.
considered non-essential.
That's so
And because
dumb.
of that, I started working in a bank,
Yeah.
which is the most dumbing kind of job you can imagine. Because it's not that it's dumb, it's that it's not as human.
Yeah. No, definitely.
It's like you're
not.
offering a product and you need to sell and you need to sell and you need to sell.
Yeah.
And you need to talk about it. Yes, my position is customer service. So my main job is listening to people and finding solutions and answering their questions, which is not as bad as those who are constantly shoving things inside of you. So I'd say that my position is probably the least negative that I could have found.
Yeah.
So I can manage. But if I could organize events, I could be paid to help people in the community to grow, I'd quit my job tomorrow.
Right. And who knows? I don't know. It may happen very well with your
I'm considering to next September to take an official class in organizing events.
Yeah, I think you should.
During the night shift.
Yeah.
So working the day, studying the night, and actually put this 11 years of experience to formalize it. Because society, if you didn't study, it's harder to sometimes get into some places. But with a small paper, sometimes it's a bit easier. So who knows, maybe the Spoken Heart will be one branch of something. Then there would be the Japanese event in VR, that's another thing. And then start doing events for other people, and who knows, maybe one day be paid doing it.
I think
That would be lots of fun.
yeah. I think you're doing an amazing job, whether you get paid or not. You put so much of your heart and soul into your community, and I know everyone who's come across you in VR is just, Addie and everyone in the spoken word community. They all love you so much, and you have, in the short amount of time you've been in VR, you've contributed so much to this community, and I'm really grateful to have you as my friend, and I know the whole community is very blessed to have you. Every time I see you, write a poem in somebody's chat, everyone is like, that is so sweet and beautiful and nice of you. It's such a unique skill, and I'm really, I think it's amazing that you're sharing that with other people and bringing that joy of writing and spoken word out.
Do you know why I write poetry to streamers?
Well, let me hear. Well, I don't know why. In my mind, it's to connect with them, or like to bring a little bit of joy their way, or to just, to me, it's like, it's a big way that you communicate. So I'm not sure exactly Well, tell me what your reasoning is.
Well, yes, poetry is one of my three main things that I'm passionate about. So of course, if I write poetry, it's easier for me to get in relation with someone else. But at the same time, streams are very hectic, and you can barely see sometimes text depending on the streamers. And what I learned is that if I write a poem that's not too long, I highlight it, and it's super positive, the streamer will momentarily have a glance. And if they notice it and they read it and it's beautiful, you're going to have a much larger reaction and a positive interaction than just saying, hi, how was your day? Or hi, I'm new.
That is so true.
So, for example, there's ADC.
I was just thinking about AD
one of the first,
when you read a poem for them.
One of the first poems I wrote for a streamer was for ADC. And it was kind of lewd because they were acting a bit lewd even back a year ago. And super funny at the same time.
Yeah.
And I wrote something and they just took the time to read it. They're like, chat, one moment. And then they started reading it out loud.
Yeah.
And then they were like super touched and they said, chat. Cheer Chocolate Prophet. And then people started cheering all over the place.
Aww.
And I was like, wow. That was the first time as someone had actually reacted so much.
Yeah.
And since they have a huge following, well, it was like a huge reaction. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And often they tend to interact a lot with their community. So when they say something, it's like, since it's positive what they say, often chat reacts immediately to what they're saying positively. And so I saw that it was a really positive way of interacting with others. So I've done it like I've probably written at least 1,000 poems in the past year just to streamers.
Wow. That's so many.
And lost 90% of them, but that's like, I can write new ones.
Yeah.
Because those poems were transmitted. The message was sent. So it has lived its life. So this is just an excuse to write more.
Yeah, true.
And to further develop relationships with those around us.
I have a question for you. If someone who has never written a poem or really gotten into writing, would you have any advice for someone just starting out who might want to use writing as a way to express themselves? Or
tell them to take a piece of paper and write about what they're thinking about right now. If they can't think about something, tell them what they like to do in life and to write about that. And just writing a few sentences about that is already, in a way, a poem. You put words on a piece of paper, words on a notepad, on a computer. Just, there's someone, Shy Lullaby, who sometimes goes to my event, and he reads, if you know TED Talks, he talks like someone in a TED Talk. And it doesn't rhyme necessarily, but it makes you think so much. And sometimes it's very poetic, and sometimes it's not at all. And sometimes it's a story. And it's like everything is and is not a poem. So for someone who's never written before, just sit down and write what you're thinking about. Write what makes you happy. Write what's making you sad. Write what makes you angry. Let your emotions flow. That is probably the first thing you need to do, because often you have emotions that are in there and you don't know how to take them out. So if you're sad, if you're crying, instead of grabbing a beer or getting into shooting yourself with drugs or something else, just try to exteriorize your words.
Yeah.
Exteriorize them. You might continue taking drugs or alcohol, but it might help you even more.
Yeah.
So someone who's never written poetry, just write something and then try to go to an event and just listen to what the people are saying. And if you don't have poetry of your own, find poetry online. And as long as you say who wrote it, you can read it. So even if you didn't write poetry, you can still participate at Spoken Heart because you have a poem that you found on the internet that you like. So find poets that inspire you. If you like super dark things and gothic, Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
He's probably the poet I've read the most about, even though I don't read much poetry, and I'm not necessarily the darkest person. I am sometimes curious about the darker side of life.
Yeah.
Even though I love beauty and life and joy and happiness and love and everything. So I think that light and darkness is part of us all. And being able to express what you're feeling is probably the best way to cope with what you're living. If you can't use words to say what you're thinking, it'll just like probably become anger.
Yeah.
And anger is definitely an emotion that's hard to deal with for yourself and for those around you.
Yeah.
Because when you're bored, when you're sad, when you're alone, when you don't have many friends, you don't necessarily have interests, what can you do?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's what leads people.
I did
to
feel
let
that
it
at
go.
some point.
Yeah, I've definitely felt.
I called
that
it the
as well.
void.
Yeah.
I called it the void. I didn't know how to call it. I didn't feel motivated to study. I didn't feel motivated to go outside or see my friends. I would just lay down in my bed or on a sofa and it's like I have my homework to do. Nope.
Yeah. I think we can all
So
relate.
when
to
you
that.
don't know the word, when you don't have words, when you don't have something to share with others, when you don't know what's going on in your mind, it's really difficult. So I think that poetry is just your heart talking and exteriorizing itself and being able to express yourself. You don't even need to read it from a piece of paper. Poetry can come by just talking to someone.
Yeah.
Like one person who's really funny, who was very poetic recently, was at Addie's first subathon. Every time Addie was sleeping, Moonlight Breeze.
Oh God, I love her. Yeah.
She was saying a whole bunch of beautiful things in super poetic ways on the fly.
Yeah.
She doesn't need paper. She
No,
is
she's.
poetry.
Yeah. You hear that, Moon?
She is poetry.
I love her so much. She's been helping me out a lot recently. She's such a kind person. It's Has she come to one of your events before on Thursday? Does she even know about them?
2-3 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she
Okay,
even
that's good
wrote
to
a poem or
hear.
two.
Oh, yeah, she's
I think it even helped her. She shared a few poems, and we did do a group hug or two on her.
Oh, yeah, she's been through a lot. I mean, I guess we all have.
We all
yeah.
have is definitely the right way of saying things. We
Yeah.
all don't always know how to react because we have the power to choose if we see something negatively or positively.
Mm-hmm.
We have the choice to let it push us down to the point that we almost are put on a shelf and we don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Or we can choose to embrace that experience, to cry it out. Like once I lived an experience that was really hard. Someone had almost, how do you say it? Not put a knife in my back, but backstab me, the expression.
Yeah.
And had went to a degree where it could affect my career,
Oh my gosh.
job, my life, and everything.
Yeah.
Might even get a criminal record because this person was creating
heck.
fraud and tried
Oh,
to put it
jeez.
on me and another person.
Oh my gosh.
So eventually I had to, the police asked me questions and they actually wanted me as a witness to go against this person who had backstabbed me. And I would have to face this person in court. Imagine that pressure. And it went on for a year where I did not have to go in court because there was, enquête in French and English. It would be when police are getting evidence, it's a investigation. So for a whole year, I just heard about it and then it stopped. And then they call me back and they say, we want you as a witness. And it's in 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like starting to stress because I've never been to court. And then at the end, when the person saw me arrive there with the other one, and he tried to like be, hey, friends and everything. And I'm like, get away from me. Because that person literally backstabbed me. So I went in the place where witnesses and victims go to be protected. And in the end, when he saw our reaction and our determination to explain what the truth is. An hour later, 5 minutes before court started, the police officer in charge of the investigation said, "You're free to go. We managed to get a plea bargain." Like 5 minutes before I had to walk in front of a judge for the first time ever, and like my stress was like up here. It was a 17 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
And then suddenly I can go home free. And then they gave me like
goodness.
$300 for the transportation, for the hotel and everything.
Yeah.
And we go to a fish shop and buy a whole bunch of fish and bring it back home. And then I'm like all alone in my hometown, and I just lived through this. Luckily, I had friends in the convention at Otakuton in Montreal who I said, "Hey, we have a ticket for like a Zelda performance, something of the goddess, official performance." And I got the best seat in the house, the best one, with the co-president of Otakuton and 2 other people I get along well. And this was great. But then they left, and I was once again all alone. And then I wanted to see my friends, and my mom was there, but she had to leave because her sister was feeling bad. And then I was all alone once again, so I went to a restaurant where I knew the owners. And I ordered something, and then I started crying. They offered me a beer. I said, "No, thank you. I want a piece of paper and a pen."
Yeah.
I wrote about the restaurant and how amazing it was poetically and gave it to them. Then I stopped crying. I thanked them, and I left. 1 year later, they still have that poem in their office.
Oh, that's very sweet. Is that the restaurant that you really like going to? You said there was a restaurant that okay. You know what I'm talking about, right?
One place that I used to go a few times.
Yeah.
It was a place that's kind of a esports bar. It was lots of fun, but eventually it toned down. But my favorite place is a medieval fantasy type restaurant.
Oh yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, you told me about it. It sounds amazing.
In 2019, I went 52 times in 1 year.
Oh my gosh. What do you get there? I think I saw you with like a big
work.
leg of a rag. I don't know, a big leg of something.
A what?
Like a turkey, not a turkey leg.
Leg?
I don't know. Maybe not a leg, but a thing of meat. I've seen you like you just with a big thing of meat.
Brochette. What are brochettes? When there's a meat, where there's like a piece of metal and there's meat on it.
Kebab?
And you put it on barbecue. What is that called? Kind of like a kebab of a full chicken.
Yeah.
With a
rotisserie,
full like sirloin, full sirloin of pork, 3 very thick sausages,
so good.
and a few other pieces of meat with like 5 huge pieces of veggies on another one with 3 other things of meat. It costs like $120, but you can eat you can fill like 8 grown adults.
Yeah.
And you'd still have some left over.
Yeah. Oh,
and that place, every year I go there for my birthday, and every year I eat something strange. Once I ate a tarantula.
Oh my gosh. Is that good?
Scorpion. In French, it's a scarabée. Scarab. A scarab.
Scarab, yeah.
And a water bug too.
How did those taste? What is a tarantula? How does a tarantula taste?
They all taste somewhat similarly.
Yeah.
They all taste a bit irony. Because of the blood.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of iron.
Interesting.
And they're very crunchy because they're dried up.
Yeah.
And there is a very strange texture from time to time that makes you want to almost throw up.
Yeah. It's like it's
And everyone looking, if they're not used to it, they're just going to turn their heads around because it's just so gross.
Yeah. Very cool.
But yeah, someday we should maybe, if you come back in the province of Quebec in Montreal,
I would love
or
I
the
would
Red
love
Dragon
to
in
do
Montreal.
that. Yeah.
And we could try to get like tons of streamers who are in the area.
Oh, I'd love to visit Montreal.
I could do kind of like an open mic, spoken heart. You could just run around all over the place, but in real life. And we could just have a really big blast.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Well, Chocolate, I would love to keep talking with you forever. Unfortunately, my food has been outside my door for like 30 minutes and I have something I need to do. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking with me. This was amazing. Sorry we haven't been able to do this more often, but we definitely should. I will swing by your events when I can. You're such a beautiful, sweet, kind person. I'm very I'm really grateful that I met you just so randomly. And this is why we're in this world, is because we met randomly.
Do you want to
in
show
this
them where
world.
we met?
Yeah, sure. We can go over here and this very beautiful scene right here.
I was here. I was talking with someone about fanfics and MMOs, and girls out of nowhere came through the door over there where we came from,
Yeah.
came up, started talking to me for like 5 minutes, requested a friend request off of me, and poofed. It was mysterious. It was magical. After
Sounds
that,
like
we met again, and girls offered to talked about playing music, but they were too shy to play in front of an audience. So
Oh,
girls
yeah, I
actually
remember
gave me a
that.
private musical session.
I
think
remember
I got
that.
like 4 or 5 in the end.
You did.
Every
yeah.
time, I felt that it was a magical moment.
Mm.
I almost felt like you were giving attention to the point of really making me feel loved.
Mm.
And it was really an unforgettable experience.
Oh. Oh.
Hmm.
Mm.
Since then, I guess I accepted some of that love and I shared it with many, many people.
Yeah, you really did. You sent so much love just to everyone. I just want to recap, just for this video, if you're interested in Chocolate's spoken word events. What is spoken?
Spoken heart.
Spoken Heart. Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern
Eastern
time, and you can just. How do you go about people just like who you don't know? Can you just send you a friend request and then just say, hey, I'm interested in the event? Or?
So what happens is that there's my Discord. I accept any message from anyone on Discord.
Yeah.
So if you go on Artifacts, Artifex, the Artifacts Discord, you can easily find my username, which is _ chocolat, which is chocolate without an E, _ And if you write to me and you say that you've heard about Spoken Heart and you want to participate, I will automatically accept you as a friend in VRchat, and you will be invited to the event, either as an attendee and cheer on the people, or as someone who participates actively. Either way, the fact of just being there contributes to the community, and if you bring a bit of love and you bring a bit about your authenticity, it'll just make the event even more amazing.
And yeah. Well, thank you so much.
And I would maybe have
Yeah, go ahead.
I would have a last word to share, but if you want to
Yeah,
say
no,
a few
please.
words-
No, I have nothing to say. I think you're you're lovely and amazing, and I would love for you to have the last word.
Then I would say to you all, sweet water, light laughter, until next we meet. Or in other words in French, eau douce, rire léger, et au plaisir de se recroiser.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching. Bye. And there.